My husband's family knew for months he was cheating with my rich boss and hid it at my 39th birthday. When I exposed them, they told me to grow up and let them be happy. His mom said, "Stop being selfish." I just smiled, then handed them an envelope. Minutes later, he was on his knees, begging. Eyes locked on what I'd given him. You know, sometimes life hits you with a moment so utterly blindsiding, you can practically hear the glass shatter. For me, it wasn't some sudden accident, but a slow, excruciating reveal that ripped my world apart. Picture this. I walked into what I thought was an urgent meeting, only to find my husband, his hand resting intimately on my boss's shoulder, his wedding ring practically glinting in my face, surrounded by his entire family, plotting my professional and personal demise. It was supposed to be a regular Tuesday. I was knee-deep in quarterly reports when Anastasia's assistant called, buzzing with urgency. Executive floor, immediately. 32 floors up. I made that familiar journey clueless. I'd made it hundreds of times in my 5 years at Meridian Enterprises, usually carrying critical reports for Anastasia's approval. But the moment I stepped into her opulent corner office, everything changed. There they were, Cody, his parents Eleanor and William, even his sister Patricia. But this wasn't Meridian Enterprises business. This was Anastasia Blackwood's private office, and my boss sat at the head of the table like she belonged with my husband's family. Eleanor, my mother-in-law, started with, "Sierra, we wanted to talk to you about restructuring opportunities." I froze, my brain struggling to process what my eyes were seeing. Cody's hand on Anastasia's shoulder, that damn wedding ring catching the light. Restructuring? I heard myself say, the word a stranger in my own mouth. William cleared his throat, adjusting his tie. "Your position at Meridian. Anastasia has some ideas about your future here." That's when I saw them. Legal documents spread across the table, Anastasia's signature already stark against the crisp white pages. My stomach dropped. Anastasia, in the crimson Chanel suit I'd complimented her on just last month, the one she said made her feel powerful during tough negotiations, commanded me to sit down, Sierra. But my legs felt disconnected, yet somehow held me upright. Cody, the man I'd made coffee for that morning, couldn't even look at me. His eyes were fixed on some invisible point, the way they did when he was calculating market risks he didn't want to acknowledge. "This is highly irregular," I managed, my voice sounding foreign. "Any restructuring should go through proper channels. HR should be present." Patricia, looking incredibly uncomfortable, clutched her designer bag like a lifeline. I could see the carefully applied concealer under her eyes, the same brand she'd borrowed from me after her last breakup. She'd been crying. "This isn't exactly a standard corporate restructuring," William interjected, his Harvard class ring glinting. "It's more of a family discussion that happens to have professional implications." Family discussion. The words hung in the air, a sickening accusation. I looked at these people I'd shared 12 years of holidays, birthdays, Sunday dinners with. Eleanor wouldn't meet my gaze, glued instead to her phone, discreetly tapping out messages. Patricia just opened and closed her mouth, wordless. And Cody, my husband, the man who'd promised to love and honor me, sat there like a stranger in a familiar face. What kind of family discussion, I asked, requires my boss's presence? But a terrifying part of me already knew. The late nights Cody had been working. The unexpected business trips that perfectly aligned with Anastasia's travel schedule. Eleanor's sudden, unnerving interest in my overtime hours and compliance review trips. Anastasia leaned back, using the voice she reserved for explaining complex financial instruments to new clients. "Sierra, you're an intelligent woman. Surely you've noticed that the dynamics in your marriage have been evolving." Evolving, such a clinical word for gut-wrenching betrayal. "And you've all been aware of this evolution?" Eleanor finally looked up. "We didn't want to hurt you unnecessarily. Some things resolve themselves naturally if given time and space." "Time and space?" I repeated. "Is that what you call secret meetings in my boss's office?" My eyes drifted to the documents. From where I stood, I could make out separation agreements, asset division worksheets, even a draft resignation letter from Meridian, typed on company letterhead. "You've already prepared my resignation." The laugh that escaped me was brittle, sharp enough to cut. How thoughtful. We wanted to make this transition as smooth as possible, William said, his boardroom voice echoing. Anastasia has been very generous with the severance terms. Generous? My mentor, the woman I'd trusted with my career, had been planning my professional demise while pursuing my husband, and his family had not only known but facilitated it. I pulled out my phone. The flash was almost imperceptible as I took a photo, all of them, sitting around that table with their prepared documents and practiced explanations. They looked like a board of directors conducting a hostile takeover, which, in a way, they were. Sierra, please be reasonable, Cody finally spoke, his voice careful, measured. This doesn't have to be adversarial. I looked at him, really looked at him. The man I'd made breakfast for that morning, whose coffee I'd prepared exactly how he liked it. He wore the tie I'd given him for his birthday, the silver one that brought out his eyes. You're right, I said, surprising them all with my calm. It doesn't have to be adversarial at all. I turned and walked toward the door, pausing with my hand on the handle. By the way, Anastasia, you might want to review Section 12 of Meridian's corporate ethics policy. The part about supervisor relationships with subordinates' family members? I wrote that section myself, remember? Very thorough documentation requirements. The color drained from Anastasia's face. Oh, and Eleanor, I added, cancel whatever you're planning for my birthday party next month. I'll be making my own arrangements. I left them there, in that silent conference room, with their documents and their restructuring plans. The facade of our perfect family had just shattered, beyond repair. But I also knew something they didn't. I'd been documenting irregularities in Anastasia's expense reports for weeks. I'd noticed the pattern of Cody's supposed client meetings aligning with her schedule. And as senior compliance director, I had access to every financial record, every email, every corporate credit card transaction that would tell the real story of their betrayal. The elevator ride down felt different this time. 32 floors to plan my next move. 32 floors to transform from victim to architect of my own revenge. As I walked through Meridian's marble lobby, the security guard nodded at me, completely unaware my entire world had imploded 32 floors above. My phone buzzed. Marcus, my assistant, had sent 3 urgent messages. Off the record. Coffee shop on 47th. Marcus never asked for off-site meetings. I found my car somehow, my hands steady on the wheel even as my mind replayed Cody's fingers on Anastasia's shoulder. Marcus was already there, hunched over his laptop. When I slid into the booth, his expression made my chest tighten. I've been debating whether to show you this for 2 weeks, he said, turning his screen towards me. But after seeing you come down from Anastasia's office looking like that, I can't keep quiet anymore. It was Anastasia's calendar, dozens of blocks marked Portfolio Review Private. Always when I was traveling for audits. No client name attached, Marcus whispered. No meeting room. And look at the pattern. He scrolled, and there it was, every single portfolio review, aligned with my out-of-office schedule. How long? My voice was surprisingly normal. The first one was in September. The weekend you went to Boston. He pulled up corporate credit card records. Anastasia expensed a dinner for 2 at Daniel that Saturday. Listed as client development, but no client name recorded. September. 3 months ago. The same time Cody had started locking his laptop, taking calls in his study with the door closed, showering before breakfast. There's more, Marcus continued. Your husband's investment firm started getting referrals from Meridian around the same time. High-value clients that usually went to our preferred partners. I stared at the screen, watching the evidence of my life's dissolution laid out in calendar entries and expense reports. Why are you showing me this, Marcus? You're taking a huge risk. He closed the laptop. Because you're the only executive at Meridian who's ever treated me like a human being instead of furniture. And what they're doing isn't just wrong, it's illegal. Steering clients to benefit a personal relationship? That's a violation of about 12 different regulations you taught me to watch for. My phone rang. Eleanor. Again. I let it go to voicemail, but she called immediately. Then again. I should take this, I said, dread filling me. Sierra, darling, she cooed, her tone bright, artificial. Are you coming to dinner on Sunday? I need to know for the catering. Catering? Since when did she cater Sunday dinner? Oh, didn't Cody mention? We're having a few extra guests. Some potential business partners William wants to impress. She paused. You're not traveling this weekend, are you? I know you have that Miami conference coming up. The Miami conference wasn't for 2 weeks, and I'd only told my team. How did you know about Miami, Eleanor? Oh, I must have heard Cody mention it. You know how proud he is of your career advancement. She called 3 times that week, asking about my schedule. My mother-in-law, who usually communicated through Cody or holiday cards, suddenly desperate to know my every movement. Marcus, I said, can you check if there were any family names on Anastasia's calendar during those block times? His fingers flew. I can't see meeting details, but... He pulled up the visitor log. Cody Hawthorne signed in as Anastasia's guest 4 times in the past month. Always during your travel dates. For times. My husband had visited my boss and no one had thought to mention it. Not Cody, not Anastasia, not even Patricia, who worked 2 floors down. 2 weeks later was the charity gala, Meridian's annual fundraiser. I was in Philadelphia, dealing with an emergency audit that Anastasia had insisted only I could handle. You're the only one I trust, she'd said. I missed the gala, where, apparently, my husband had served as my boss's date. The company Instagram photos screamed the story I wasn't meant to see, Cody in his tuxedo, next to Anastasia in a stunning gold gown, his hand on the small of her back. The caption read, Meridian Enterprises appreciates the support of our extended family. Extended family, the phrase made me sick. My colleague Bethany had casually mentioned it. Your husband is so charming. He had everyone laughing at Anastasia's table. Not a table. Anastasia's table. An honor usually reserved for major clients or board members, not employees' spouses. The final, gut-wrenching piece of the puzzle clicked into place 3 weeks before my 39th birthday, at Rachel's wedding. James, Cody's younger brother, always the family's weak link, found me on the terrace. He was swaying, clutching a champagne flute. Sierra, he slurred, you're too good for all of this. For what they're doing. My blood ran cold. What? Who's doing what, James? He looked around nervously, then leaned closer. The family. They've been handling things, managing the situation. But you deserve to know that. Patricia appeared, sharp as glass. She grabbed his arm, but James resisted. She should know, Pat. It's been months. The whole family knows. And we're all just pretending. Patricia dragged him away, but his words echoed. The whole family knows. James's drunken words haunted me as I drove home. That night, I couldn't sleep. Marcus's calendar evidence, Eleanor's suspicious calls, James's confession. The pattern was undeniable. But I needed more than suspicion. I needed proof that would hold up in any courtroom. My college roommate, Beth, had survived her own corporate nightmare. She'd mentioned a forensic accountant who saved her. Linda Garrison. I found the text, called her past midnight. Beth told me you might call, Linda said simply. Can you meet tomorrow? Bring every financial document you can access. Linda was not what I expected. Mid-50s, jeans, and a Columbia sweatshirt, more like a favorite aunt than a financial detective. Tell me what you know, she said, pushing coffee across her desk. I laid it all out, the calendar patterns, the family's strange behavior, James's confession. And you have access to Meridian's financial systems? She asked. I'm Senior Compliance Director. I have access to everything except executive compensation details. Linda smiled. That's more than enough. Over the next 3 days, working after hours in the empty Meridian offices, I pulled records that painted a devastating picture. 6 months ago, Anastasia had started steering investment opportunities to smaller firms instead of our usual institutional partners. The lion's share? Hawthorne Global Investments, Cody's family business, which had mysteriously pivoted to investment management just as Anastasia and Cody grew closer. $2 million in directed business over 6 months. That's not an affair, Linda said. That's a financial conspiracy. Your husband's family didn't just know about the relationship. They were profiting from it. The evidence grew more damning. William's signature on contracts he had no business seeing. Eleanor listed as a consultant on deals despite no financial credentials. Patricia's design firm suddenly receiving Meridian's marketing contracts at 30% above market value. I stayed up until 2 a.m. that night, mapping everything on a whiteboard, red lines for dates, blue circles for transactions, green highlights for every family dinner where my schedule had been discussed. The pattern looked less like an affair and more like a coordinated corporate raid. Then came the corporate credit card discovery. Buried in the client development budget, I found Anastasia's executive account. And there, next to her signature, was Cody Hawthorne's. My husband had been signing off on luxury purchases for another woman, authorizing expenses that violated every policy I had written for Meridian. The Valentino dress for the gala, client relationship building. A couple's massage at the Mandarin Oriental, executive stress management. A private jet to Martha's Vineyard, strategic planning retreat. And the worst, a $15,000 charge at Cartier the day after my promotion was announced, described as estate jewelry consultation. The same day Cody had said he was proud of me, held me close, promised we'd celebrate. I was printing these documents when Patricia appeared in my office doorway. It was 7 p.m., the building nearly empty. She looked haggard, her perfect makeup streaked. "We need to talk," she said, closing the door. I kept printing. "I know you know," she whispered. "James told me." "What exactly do I know, Patricia?" She stammered, then finally confessed. "The family, we've been trying to protect you." At first, it was just business. Anastasia could help our firm, and Cody was the natural liaison. But then, Mom and Dad saw an opportunity. They said if Cody was happy and the business was thriving, everyone would benefit. Everyone except me. They said you were too focused on your career to notice. That you and Cody had grown apart naturally. That this was just evolution. The word made me sick. "I shouldn't have come," she stood abruptly. "I just wanted you to know that not everyone agreed with it. James and we tried to tell them it was wrong, but the money, Sierra, the family business was failing. Dad was going to lose everything." She left, her confession hanging in the air like smoke from a fire that had been burning for months, while I slept peacefully in the same house, ate at the same table, loved the same people who were orchestrating my destruction. That night, I went home and cooked dinner as if nothing had changed. Cody sat across from me, unaware that I had started recording our conversations. "How was your day?" he asked, as empty as our marriage had become. "Busy." Eleanor called again. "She seems very interested in my schedule lately." His fingers paused for a moment on his phone screen. "She's probably planning something for your birthday. You know how she gets about family celebrations." Family celebrations. I wanted to laugh. For the next 3 weeks, I became someone I didn't recognize. Every evening after Cody went to bed, I worked in the dark guest room, photographing documents, uploading files to encrypted drives that my college friend Marie stored in her Queens apartment. The family dinners became intelligence gathering operations. My phone recorded every coded reference, every knowing look, every moment they thought they were being clever while I played the oblivious wife. The paper trail was so brazen, so carelessly arrogant, it took my breath away. They hadn't just been having an affair, they'd been documenting it in corporate financial records. The baby shower for William's niece provided the final piece. Eleanor pulled me aside. "You look tired, dear. All this work can't be good for you." Sometimes I wonder if I'm missing out on other things by focusing so much on my career. Her eyes lit up. A career is important, but it shouldn't be everything. Sometimes we need to accept that people grow in different directions. Cody, for instance, has been exploring new horizons lately. It's healthy for a marriage when both partners have room to explore their options. Explore their options, her words, captured clearly on my phone, were the confession I needed. Not just knowledge of the affair, but active encouragement, strategic planning, family collusion, and my humiliation. That night, I locked myself in our bedroom. I spread everything across the bed, printed emails, photographed receipts, transcribed recordings, Linda's analysis, Marcus's calendar evidence. It looked like a prosecutor's war room. The financial fraud alone totaled over $300,000. The timeline, 6 months of deception, laid out hour by hour, dinner by dinner, lie by lie. Every time Cody kissed me goodbye while planning to meet Anastasia. Every family gathering where they discussed my schedule to facilitate their encounters. As the sun rose, I looked at the man sleeping beside me. He had no idea the woman he had married, the one who trusted blindly and loved completely, was gone. In her place stood someone who understood that love without respect was worthless, and the best revenge wasn't emotional. It was procedural, systematic, and absolutely devastating. 3 days later, Eleanor called. "Sierra, darling, your birthday is coming up next month," she cooed. "William and I want to host a party for you at our townhouse." Eleanor had never once offered to host my birthday. "I've already started making arrangements. Saturday the 15th, cocktails at 7 o'clock. Intimate. Family and close friends." And then the carefully rehearsed words, "I thought it would be appropriate to invite Anastasia Blackwood given your professional relationship." It would be a nice gesture, don't you think? Show that there are no boundaries between work and family life. No boundaries. I gripped my phone, forcing my voice steady. Of course, Anastasia should definitely be there. I knew their game. They were planning to announce Cody and Anastasia's relationship, framing it as a mutual decision we'd all reached together. Sophisticated. Modern. Evolved. I spent the next week making my own preparations. I visited the SEC in Lower Manhattan. The investigator, Janet Chin, with kind eyes and an uncompromising demeanor, reviewed my documentation. "This is extensive," she said. "You understand that filing a formal complaint triggers an investigation that can't be stopped?" I understood completely. 2 days before the party, I hand-delivered copies of everything to 3 different destinations. The SEC received the financial fraud documentation. Meridian's board of directors received a package detailing their CEO's misuse of corporate resources. The state attorney general's office received evidence of the broader conspiracy. Each package was timed to arrive Monday morning, 48 hours after my birthday party. I wanted the Hawthorns to enjoy their last weekend thinking they'd won. For the party itself, I prepared a masterpiece of condensed destruction. Into a single manila envelope, I placed the most damning pieces: photographs of Cody's signatures on Anastasia's personal expenses, screenshots of their text messages discussing the family's financial benefits, Eleanor's recorded admission, and copies of the filed reports with official timestamps. This envelope would be my birthday gift to myself. The moment I stopped being their victim and became the architect of their downfall. Marie agreed without hesitation to record. "They're planning something," I told her. "They want to use my birthday party to force me to accept the situation publicly, with all their society friends as witnesses." Marie's expression hardened. "I'm going to give them exactly what they think they want," I said. A mature, sophisticated response to their betrayal. They just won't realize until it's too late that my definition of maturity includes accountability. I also met with my lawyer, opened new accounts, and secured my finances. Cody wanted a divorce? I would be ready. Saturday arrived, crisp and bright. I adjusted my black cocktail dress. Elegant enough for Eleanor's standards, dark enough for a funeral. Cody emerged from the bathroom, his cologne filling the room, the same scent he'd worn to our wedding. "You look beautiful," he said. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Regret? Or just anticipation of the performance his family had orchestrated? "Thank you," I replied, slipping the manila envelope into my purse. The townhouse glowed with soft lighting, fresh flowers, enough champagne to float a small yacht. Guests were already arriving. I saw Anastasia near the bar in a red dress, raising her champagne glass in a mock toast, her smile sharp as a winter wind. Marie was positioned exactly where we'd discussed, phone discreetly ready. At 8:30, Eleanor clinked her glass, calling for attention. "Everyone, please, a toast to our dear Sierra on her 39th birthday." She delivered a speech that sounded heartfelt to anyone who didn't know better, about family, growth, embracing new chapters. Every word loaded with double meaning. "To Sierra," she concluded, "may this year bring you clarity, acceptance, and the wisdom to recognize happiness in all its forms." Then, the trap sprung. Eleanor touched my elbow. "Sierra, dear, could you join us in the library for a moment?" William has a special gift he'd like to present privately. I followed her, hearing Cody's footsteps behind us. The library door closed with a soft click. Sierra, William began, his voice patronizing. We wanted to speak with you privately because we care about you. We're family, and family looks out for each other. They arranged themselves in a semicircle. Eleanor, smooth as aged whiskey, took over. We know this might be difficult to hear, but we believe you're mature enough to handle the truth. Cody and Anastasia have developed feelings for each other. Real, profound feelings that transcend conventional relationships. Transcend. I repeated, tasting the word like spoiled wine. They're soulmates, Eleanor continued, warming to her theme. You can't fight that kind of connection. It would be selfish to try. William nodded sagely. You're an intelligent woman, Sierra. Surely you understand that forcing people to deny their true feelings only creates misery for everyone. Patricia, barely above a whisper, added, You're strong enough to handle this with dignity. We all know how capable you are. I let them finish their entire performance, their rehearsed arguments about emotional evolution and mature acceptance. They spoke about Cody's happiness as if it were a commodity more valuable than my dignity. When they finally fell silent, waiting, I smiled. It was the same smile I used when reviewing contracts with hidden termination clauses. You're absolutely right, I said calmly. I should handle this with maturity and grace. Eleanor's face lit up. William actually sighed. They thought they'd won. Shall we return to the party? Eleanor suggested, already moving toward the door. No need to let this spoil your birthday celebration. I followed them back to the main room. Cody stood near the fireplace with Anastasia, their bodies angled toward each other with the unconscious intimacy of lovers who think they're being discreet. I walked directly toward them, my heels clicking on the marble floor. The envelope in my purse felt warm against my side. Conversations near us quieted as people sensed something shifting. Cody, Anastasia, I said, loud enough for the surrounding guests to hear. Since we're all being mature adults here, I have something for you both. I pulled out the envelope, holding it between us like a verdict. Cody's face went pale before he even opened it. Sir, what is this? Anastasia's voice carried a warning. But it was too late. Open it, I said simply. After all, we're handling this like sophisticated people, aren't we? Cody's fingers fumbled with the seal. I watched his eyes scan the first page, the SEC filing stamp visible at the top, the case number already assigned. His hands began to shake as he reached the second page, the documented fraud, his signatures on Anastasia's personal expenses. The sound that escaped him wasn't quite a scream. It was primal, the sound of someone watching everything they'd built evaporate like morning mist. The envelope fell from his hands, pages scattering across the marble floor. Sierra, please, you don't understand, his voice cracked. I understand perfectly, I said, my voice carrying across the now silent room. My husband's family has known about his affair with my boss for months. They facilitated it because Anastasia was steering illegal profits to their struggling business. Every person in that library just tried to convince me to accept this quietly. The room remained frozen, documents scattered across Eleanor's imported Italian marble. Guests stood like statues. Marie, from her position by the bar, captured everything. Eleanor was the first to move, her face a malfunctioning slideshow of confusion, rage, fear, and finally, desperate calculation. This is obviously a misunderstanding, she said, her voice pitched too high, addressing the room. Family matters can be so complicated. Federal fraud investigations aren't family matters, I said, bending to pick up one of the pages. This is a copy of the complaint filed with the SEC. Monday morning, investigators will begin reviewing how Anastasia Blackwood used Meridian Enterprises resources to enrich the Hawthorne family business through illegal contracts and kickbacks. Anastasia stood perfectly still, her red dress now a warning flag. Her eyes met mine, and I saw the exact moment she understood the scope of what I'd done. Her phone buzzed once, twice, 3 times. Probably her lawyer, already alerting her to the freeze orders that would hit her accounts within hours. The guests began to leave, murmuring excuses. Nobody wanted to be associated with scandal of this magnitude. William's golf buddies avoided eye contact. Eleanor's book club friends whispered, already composing the gossip they'd spread through the Upper East Side by Sunday brunch. By Monday afternoon, the dominoes were falling with breathtaking speed. Meridian's board convened an emergency meeting at 7 a.m. By noon, Anastasia was suspended, her office sealed. The FBI had arrived with boxes and hard drives. Marcus sent me a text, "She's gone. Federal agents are here. Board wants to see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. The Hawthorne family business hemorrhaged clients. William's phone rang constantly, but nobody was calling with good news. Tuesday evening, Cody came home to pack. He found me in our bedroom doorway, red-rimmed eyes, 3 days of stubble. "Can we talk?" His voice was hoarse, broken. "There's nothing to discuss. Your lawyer can contact mine." He dropped to his knees beside our bed. "I never meant for it to go this far. It started as business. Dad's company was failing. Anastasia offered to help." He sobbed. "My family pushed me toward her. They said it was for everyone's benefit, that you were too focused on your career to notice or care." His words might have moved me 6 months ago. Now they sounded like what they were, desperate attempts to shift blame. "Your family didn't forge your signature on those documents," I said quietly. "They didn't force you to meet Anastasia at the St. Regis while I was traveling. You made those choices." "I still love you," he whispered, reaching for my hand. I stepped back. "No, you don't. You love the life I provided, the stability, the respectability, the cover for your family schemes. But love? Love doesn't conspire. Love doesn't deceive. Love doesn't treat someone's dignity as acceptable collateral damage." Wednesday brought the divorce papers. Cody signed with hands that shook so badly he could barely hold the pen. The man who'd once confidently signed million-dollar investment deals was reduced to a trembling mess, watching 12 years dissolve in black ink. Thursday afternoon, Patricia appeared at my door, completely shattered. "I need to tell you everything," she said, collapsing onto my couch. "Not for forgiveness. I don't deserve that. But you should know the whole truth." She talked for an hour, my security system recording every word. How the conspiracy started 8 months ago, how Eleanor suggested Cody leverage his relationship with me to get closer to Anastasia. Every Sunday dinner, we discussed your schedule, planned their meetings, strategized about how to keep you from finding out. Mom would say you were too smart to be fooled forever, but by then the money would be secured and you'd have to accept it. She left as the sun set, her confession recorded and saved. By Friday, Eleanor's calls had shifted from angry demands to desperate pleas for mercy. "You're destroying us," she wept in one voicemail. "William's having chest pains. The business is ruined. How can you do this to family?" Family? The word had lost all meaning. Family was supposed to protect you, not orchestrate your betrayal. I deleted every message without listening to the end. 6 months passed. The investigation into Meridian expanded. The board, desperate to salvage the company's reputation, offered me a generous settlement. I took the money, signed the NDA, and walked away from corporate life. Garrison Compliance Consulting opened in Queens, a converted corner unit above a bakery. Linda, the forensic accountant, sent me my first client. My work had purpose now. These weren't billionaires. These were people who'd built something real and needed someone to help them protect it. October brought news. The Hawthorne estate was for sale. I drove out to Long Island. The realtor signs swayed in the autumn wind. A neighbor recognized me. "Such a shame about the Hawthorns," she said, though her tone suggested she was enjoying the gossip. "They had to sell everything, the legal fees, you know. And William's health hasn't been good." I felt nothing. They had chosen this path. The criminal trials began in January. Anastasia plea bargained to 2 years minimum security. Hawthorne Global dissolved. Cody avoided prison, but got 3 years probation and was permanently barred from financial services. His mugshot appeared in the business section of the Times. William suffered a heart attack. Eleanor found herself uninvited from charity boards. Patricia moved to Seattle, changing her last name. My 40th birthday arrived in March, exactly 1 year after that party. Marie insisted on hosting a dinner. Just friends who'd known me before I'd become Mrs. Hawthorne, before Meridian, before any of it mattered. You seem good, Marie said as she walked me to the door. Really good. Not just surviving, but actually good. She was right. For the first time, maybe ever, I felt aligned with my own life. No performance, no managing appearances, no strategic relationships. I stood on my brownstone steps a week later, coffee in hand, watching Brooklyn wake up. Cherry trees bloomed. A young couple walked past with their baby. I thought about the children, Cody, and I never had. A blessing now, though it hadn't felt that way at the time. My phone buzzed with a text from a new client. It was exactly the kind of work that mattered. The truth I'd learned wasn't about revenge or justice or even survival. It was simpler. When someone shows you through their actions that your dignity is an acceptable casualty for their gain, believe them. Document everything. Report it to the proper authorities. And then build something better from whatever remains. The Hawthorns thought they were conducting a sophisticated financial operation. They never understood that what they were really doing was teaching me my own worth. Not in dollars or social standing, but in the simple ability to recognize deception, document truth, and refuse to be complicit in my own destruction. Standing there, I realized I'd won something more valuable than any settlement. I'd won the right to live without pretense, to work without compromise, and to trust without fear. The Hawthorns lost everything trying to take what wasn't theirs. I gained everything by simply refusing to let them. So, after hearing all this, what do you think? What would you have done in my place when you first walked into that room? Let me know in the comments below. I'm really curious to hear your take on this wild ride.